views and opinions of any of the guests of After Hours AM are not necessarily the views and opinions of After Hours AM, its hosts, its staff, or any of its affiliates.
Welcome to the After Hours program.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead to the inescapable assumption that those strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmlands tonight are the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars.
This is the latest disclosure, a report from National Civil Defense Headquarters in Washington. It has been established that persons who have recently died have been returning to life and committing acts of murder.
Wait a minute, something's happening. Some shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror.
Welcome to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
And good evening, afternoon, morning, no matter where you are. It is After Hours AM Deeper Cuts. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me is Mr. Greg Bakken, and we are coming at you hot on the heels of Paracon this last weekend, where I'm sure most of you guys listened to our live broadcast, but if you didn't miss it, it is up for download over at our Podomatic page, as well as our iHeartRadio podcast page as well. So go ahead, download that bad boy if you missed us. Take a listen. A lot of great interviews. Everyone from Jason Hawes, Grant Wilson, Tori Valachi, of all people, from Mythbusters was there, which was really cool to see him. But yeah, you're going to hear a lot of cool stuff. It's part 1, part 2. Part 2 is about 3 hours long. Part 1 is 2 hours long. So 5 hours of Paracon goodness. Right, Greg?
Sure. It sure is. So, Joel, Paracon number 1 for you is in the books. What did you think?
Yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, that's right.
It was actually a lot of fun. It was okay. I mean, you know, it was kind of fun. You know, I found it really hard after doing a full day of radio to want to go hang out with people that much, to be honest with you. So I was kind of, my voice, of course, if you're listening to this show right now, and I know you are, my voice is still rough from all those hours of straight talking. We pretty much talked, 12 hours a day, wouldn't you say, right around there? And so then, of course, when you're done with that, you'd still talk because, you know, your fans didn't want to stop you. We have fans, believe it or not, Greg. We have fans. They didn't want to stop us, talk with us.
I don't know if I would call mine fans because most of them asked for spare change.
Yes.
And that's fine. I mean, it's kind of a payment method for being a fan.
You know what was weird about the weekend, though, and this is no slight against the Shooting Star, but it was the death in the bathroom. I thought they were joking for Paracon week.
No, that wasn't a joke.
That wasn't a joke. I thought it was one of the paracelebs and I were talking about it, and he's like, yeah, did you hear? And I'm like, what? You're kidding. I gotcha. No, it was very real. So public service announcement, guys, is you know, drugs are really, really bad. So thank God it wasn't anyone we knew, but God, we still care about that person.
It's a shock. It's unfortunate. Obviously, all thoughts go to that person and their family. Obviously.
Boy, way to be a downer for me, huh? Yeah. By the way, we had a death in the bathroom. Yeah. What the hell? No, but in all seriousness, I just want to get that out as public service announcements. You know, it's a bad deal. You know, just the reason why I bring it up is even in my little town of Gilbert, which is 2,100 and whatever people strong, we're having opiate problems here in this little town as well. So it's not just isolated to, you know, cities, big cities. It's also small cities too. So just giving a little public service announcement out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be careful.
But other than that, it was a lot of fun.
It was actually, I really enjoyed the band that they had. They were pretty good at the Mustang Lounge, although nobody hangs at the Mustang. It's like,
that's very different from past years because, first of all, I always have a soft spot for the band that used to play there, Slamabama. They're fantastic. Sure. But this year, very few people from the convention actually hung out at the Mustang Lounge.
Very few hung out, period, really. If you look at the convention in its entirety, you didn't see a lot out.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot out, but the ones that did make it out and we mingled with and we talked with, hey, it was great meeting all of you. And it was a lot of fun talking with you. Signed some autographs, stuff like that. It was always fun.
Yeah, it was a fun time, obviously. Yeah.
It was a great time. But anyhow, tonight we're having Reverend Tim Shaw on the show. We're talking all things spiritual, seance, paranormal, you name it. He's kind of versatile in that way. Tim kind of covers everything, and of course, he is also a radio host, Greg. Did you know that? He does,
I did, actually.
Yeah, Curiosity Radio, and that's doing really well. And you can catch that at a place called Slackjaw Punks. So slackjawpunks.com. You can check out his podcast, all that kind of good stuff. But he'll be on at the bottom of this hour. But with no further ado, we're going to go right into headlines, Greg. What do you got going for us this week?
Well, man captures photo of ghost and famous haunted hotel. His quote, "I was in shock." Right? A Colorado hotel is living up to its scary reputation after a visitor snapped a photo of a ghost while on tour of the place. Jay Mosling was on a spirit tour of the Stanley Hotel with his wife Jessica and other family members last month when he began snapping photos inside the 108-year-old building. It wasn't until he arrived home later and was looking through the photos that he and his wife noticed the ghostly figure that was seemingly standing outside. I know, right? We were just instructed to take a bunch of photos, so that basically all I did. I was kind of lagging behind the group and putting myself in different positions. Okay. Right, Mosling told InsideEdition.com. Am I on the right website? Okay. I was standing on the top of the stairs when I took the picture. I just took a picture of a wall a couple times under the staircase. We looked at the photos and later, and sure enough, caught something. That something was what appeared to be a little girl in a white robe walking up the stairs of the hotel, but no one from the tour remembers seeing a child.
Interesting.
What's that?
Interesting.
Very interesting. Well, the question was it a pair of young girls, or is it just one? I mean, that Stanley Hotel, after all. I'm just saying.
Are they screaming red rum, and coming at you?
I would hope so. I really would. By no means did anyone see a little girl in what looks like her pajamas and her slippers walking up the stairs right in front of us, Jay Mosling said. Even if you look at the picture, you notice that no one is looking there. When I grew up, no one paid attention to me.
Well,
either.
I know the feeling. I'm a middle child, right? So I know exactly how that rolls out. No one cares.
It doesn't mean you're a ghost. It means that no one likes you.
No one loves you. Mom doesn't even care anymore.
You just don't excuse something like that.
No, gosh darn it. I wouldn't either.
Well, his initial reaction, Joel, was simply, no way. Well done. Mosling said he's shown the picture to friends and coworkers, and some have suggested he changed the photo in some way. People are like, you photoshopped this, and I'm like, I don't even know how to use my cell phone. Hilarity ensues. I couldn't believe it, and everyone I show finds it hard to believe. This isn't the first time someone has captured something spooky on camera in the hotel that inspired Stephen King's horror hit The Shining. Houston publicist Henry Yao was visiting the hotel last year when he snapped a photo of a figure on the grand staircase inside. He previously told InsideEdition.com that when he took the photo, he did not see anything out of the ordinary.
Huh.
I know, right? He stayed in the hotel overnight and said he had trouble sleeping. Yeah,
I would imagine. Yeah.
I felt queasy and had stomach problems, Yao said. He didn't notice that what he captured in the photo until the next morning. And that was creepy enough. So, I don't know. That old Stanley. I mean,
I've been there.
You've been there.
Yeah, I've been there. It's a really creepy place. It is, and it really doesn't surprise me that someone would capture a ghost on film in the Stanley. And it's a big joint, though. I mean, huge building. It's a lot of fun, and any of our listeners get a chance to go, I highly recommend it. I mean, if not for ghosts, at least for the historical value of it. Very fun place.
Have you ever been to Mackinac Island in Michigan?
I want to say years ago. I'm talking when I was in my 20s.
Okay, because that's the island that you can't use cars or anything like that.
Yeah.
You're biking around, you're walking around, but up in the hills is the massive Grand Hotel. I don't think they called it a motel. The Grand Hotel, which is absolutely just massive, and it just overlooks everything. I don't know if anyone does any investigations there or anything, but I'd be very curious to know if they do, because that place, when I was there many years ago, that place had crazy energy. It was just insane.
I bet it did. It's been a long time since I've been there, and from what I understand, you're right. I want to say one of the shows did one, didn't they?
Oh, I'd have to check that out, because I find that place extremely fascinating.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of my memory banks here, whether any shows that I know went to that Mackinac Island. I think you're right. I don't think anyone has. Maybe because of the strict no cars rule. Makes it a little hard to get all the equipment up there.
Yeah, that could very well be. Yeah, so that's always some place, and plus that place is pretty old too. So I mean, it's great. That whole area is great.
It is. It really is, and so that's another place to hit. It sounds like a lot of fun. I definitely would hit it, and I will. Maybe this next summer I'll have to make a special trip to Mackinac Island.
Nice. Very nice.
So what's next, man? What we got? I know we're kind of burning through them, but there's lots to talk about.
We're good. We're totally good. I don't know if you've seen this footage of an Irish school that someone set up cameras overnight, and lockers are shaking dramatically, and all sorts of things are happening here. I'm getting my information here from the Today Show. And school security camera captures creepy footage. Is it a ghost? An Irish school might have some ghosts among its student body. Surveillance cameras captured some spooky happenings in a hallway at 3 a.m. on October 1st at Deer Park CBS School in Cork, Ireland, just a few weeks before Halloween.
Well, let me see if we can kind of watch this without the sound. As you're reading, I'm going to kind of take a gander at what's going on here.
Please do. It's very interesting. Lockers shake, papers fly, doors slam, and a plastic sign on the floor flops over without a person in sight. Upon first seeing the footage, Deer Park Deputy Principal Aaron Wolf sent the clip to the principal, Kevin Berry, in disbelief. We couldn't understand how this occurred, Wolf told Today in an email. If it's a prank, it's very well done.
Wow, man, I'm watching this video as it's unfolding.
Now, I know you don't have the sound on, and maybe later watch it with the sound on, because the amount of noise that is being made by these lockers shaking all over the place is absolutely incredible. It's really vicious, actually.
Yeah, and I'm watching this other door. Oh, yep, there goes the lockers. They're moving about. Wow, this is interesting, and it's happening in school. I mean, it begs the question of, does someone tamper with it to make the video? But, man, it's intriguing either way.
Well, and here's the thing about that, Joel. If you think about it, and I mean, there's ways around everything, right? But this is actual security camera footage.
I was going to say, yeah, because it even shows, I didn't mean to cut you up, but it even shows the security camera number and everything. So go ahead.
There's, you gotta think that this security camera is running, and it's a door at the very end of the hall. It's moving.
Yeah.
I didn't quite get that. Ooh. And if it's going 24 hours a day, how could anyone set up the prank?
Well, yeah. Well, you also see lockers opening with papers flying out of them.
Yep.
That would be very hard to pull off. I mean, you'd have to do all this off a camera, have a bunch of people coordinate this, and it seems like it'd be very hard to do.
And if it's off camera, how does that work? If it's, if this thing is running 24 hours a day, there is no such thing as off camera.
Well, sure, they'd have to come down the hallway at some point, or unless there's other access. I mean, about the only way that they could pull this off would be a monofilament invisible fishing line or something. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, the angles and things, I could see the one locker opening if you had a guy off camera and a string, okay?
Yep.
But not that far locker shaking.
No.
That would be, the angle would not be very conducive for making it go straight forward, back and forth.
So Wolf came to the school last year and was informed by staff of strange happenings in the past, from hallways being unnaturally cold to the sounds of crying. What are they, at my house? Many people have contacted us with stories about the school being haunted, he said. Luckily, the school doesn't have any sort of creepy backstory that would suggest paranormal activity. Well, that's wrong to start with. I mean, I'm not saying that there isn't creepy backstory, but, you know, I really, and you and I kind of talked about this actually at Paracon when we were doing our remote. It was like one of my biggest pet peeves is when, like, I say, oh, I'm going to go somewhere like known and do an investigation. And someone will say to me, oh, I didn't know someone died there. It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter. Like, for instance, the Paracon, though, bringing you back full circle, and you're absolutely right, doesn't matter. A lot of people, when we were kind of talking, they didn't want to come on mic, were even talking about the amount of energy there during the Paracon.
Mm-hmm.
Was, you could feel it.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, and so does someone have to die? I mean, obviously, we talked earlier, people have died at the Shooting Star, but that's any casino, though. I mean, that's really is. I did not know that, but casinos are kind of a place where a lot of bad things do go down, unfortunately. But that being said, you're right. A location doesn't have to have people dying to make it haunted.
Well, and I also think a place like Shooting Star or the other casinos, a lot of it's on, sacred land.
Yeah, well, exactly. So, I mean, you know, a public place like that, of course, you're going to have things like that going on of that size and stuff like that. But, man, I agree with you. You don't have to have someone die in a location for there to be energy there.
So this is funny. Luckily, the school doesn't have any sort of creepy backstory that would suggest paranormal activity. The very next paragraph says, the school is built on a site known as Green Gallows. In the 19th century, criminals were hanged there. We only found out that on Monday, the pub nearby is actually called the Gallows.
Oh, boy. Well, there you go then. I mean, maybe.
So that's how that works.
Maybe, yeah, I would say, maybe the school isn't haunted. Maybe the land was before, obviously, they built it. And the way that these things are being moved, it would lend itself to something that's a little bit on the pissed off side.
Yeah. People have suggested that we've used a green screen or edited someone out, Wolf said. I wish our school had these type of resources. Others have suggested that fishing line is used. I don't see how fishing line could open the locker because the locker doors don't stay closed unless they latch on its turn. Also, the corridor is on the first floor, and the windows there behind the locker don't open. However, anything is possible.
Well, yeah, no, I understand where the skeptics are coming from, right away, that you want to make sure that everything is, if there isn't something that is not paranormal, they want to debunk it, but what, that sign flying around, that's an interesting touch as well. So, I mean, if someone did actually set this up, they did a wonderful job.
Do you mean that wet floor sign on the ground?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because that thing doesn't just tip over. That thing it rotates in the air.
There's some force put to it.
I mean, it's a frightening video actually when you really look at it. There's what is happening here?
Well, would you go stay the night in there?
Oh, of course I would.
Why not? What's the worst that's gonna happen?
I wouldn't even think twice about it.
He's gonna knock over your wet floor signs. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, I'm broadcasting from a haunted place right now, which I've seen activity here firsthand. So doesn't bother me in the least.
Plus, you're used to that location too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so they know you know them kind of deal going on. But this particular location, I mean, if it's indeed buried on a place of tragedy and people dying and, that whole thing, it does lend itself to being haunted. I would agree. There's probably something going on. But to your point, you don't necessarily need to have all that to have a haunting.
No, not at all. Incidentally, to close out, Wolf had mentioned a medium has contacted us to say something will happen to me one night that will make me a believer.
Well, isn't that nice? That doesn't make him feel bad or scared at all, does he? Does
No,
that.
not
Come
at all.
on, why? Yeah, one night you will be attacked by the thing that likes to throw signs.
Yeah, right? Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting. And a little, that we call that foreshadowing is what we call
Exactly. You know, foreshadowing your doom. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a great video. I mean, you know, definitely it's worth talking about. And hopefully they let investigators in there check it out. I do understand it as an actual functioning school to this day. So that might have to wait a few years till they no longer have students in there.
Right. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to turn over to our political corner of
Sure.
After Hours AM.
There it
Deeper
is.
Cuts.
I see it. Yeah, I see it right over there.
Yep. Hello. And alien abductee mom in high stakes run for Congress.
Oh no.
Miami. Why would you say that? This is completely above board.
I just I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say oh no. Maybe that was the wrong. I should not have said oh no. Like I should have said oh.
Probably about right.
Good grief.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. What you running the aliens and probing ticket? I mean, come on.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, as a public service to our listeners, we always must do some political education, right?
Sure.
I mean,
well, as our listeners, though, that listen to Wednesday's show, True Crime, I have to note and cite that it does take place in Florida. And we do all know from listening to True Crime headlines where all the crazy things happen, and that is indeed in Florida.
Well, we can add this one to it. Well, I don't know if this is crazy. See, now it's my turn to jump the gun, and I'm being unfair. So
exactly. Jeez, Greg, come on.
I know, right? Let's give this woman her fair dues. A Miami area congressional candidate says she was abducted by aliens when she was 7 years old, and 10 years later, it happened again. Real aliens, as in saucer-flying extraterrestrials, supposedly took her into their spacecraft and talked to her about a series of things that would happen, she recounted in 2 TV interviews posted on YouTube. And they have all happened point to point. Bettina Rodriguez Aguilera, 59, one of several candidates vying to succeed outgoing representative that's currently running, said in one of the Spanish-language TV interviews, which aired on America's TV in 2009. It's unclear when the other clip aired. The aliens weren't little green men with antennas and buggy eyes. Of course not. She told 2 TV hosts, both female journalists with long, lustrous blonde hair, what the heck, that the aliens look just like you.
Wow, so they're hot.
Well, apparently so. Well, actually, hey, here we go, Joel. This is synchronicity right here.
All right, I'm listening.
Or abduction.
Yes,
right?
Yes, exactly. Or abduction.
And what did that alien look like? That was long blonde hair also.
That's right. They were long blonde, kind of good looking.
Yeah, so let's not poo-poo this just yet. Aguilera, the mother of Bettina, former Republican National Committee Hispanic Outreach Director and mother-in-law of Jared Agan, Vice President Pence's Deputy Chief of Staff, said the ET visits began when she was 7 years old. The aliens appeared before her and telepathically told her to walk outside. When they took her into their spaceship and spoke to her about events that would happen, she says, they supposedly told her about ISIS, though she wouldn't give any specific details, and that the world's energy is in Africa, and that God is a universal energy.
Wow, that's a lot to tell.
To a 7-year-old, yeah.
Yeah.
At 7, I was still watching Sesame Street.
I was still looking at He-Man and hanging out and watching Big Bird and Snuffy, be uncomfortably cozy.
Well, God is a universal energy, not a person, she said the aliens told her. He's part of everything. God talks to people and they interpret what he says different. In reality, there are different religions. In reality, there aren't different religions. There's just one. The aliens were dressed in party outfits, she said.
with horn blowers, the kind that you get on New Year's Eve, party hats on. They got some maracas in the background, doing the, going, well, welcome to the party. Aha, we got some things to tell you, you 7-year-old little girl. Come on in, have a whiskey. Good Jameson right there. Go ahead, take a snort of that. So let me tell you what's going to happen to you. Come on.
The aliens promised to return, and she said they kept their promise when she was 17. So they're aliens that keep their promises. That's kind of nice. When they visited her a second time, the first time, though, was a direct connection, she clarified. Aguilera recently told the Miami Herald, which reported on her seemingly outlandish claims on Monday, that she's a strong believer that there is life beyond planet Earth. I would agree. And she insisted she's not the only person who has seen UFOs. Duh. Though she didn't outright say she had seen aliens.
Well,
yes.
Aliens don't really scare me, per se, especially if they're blonde and good-looking. We all know what scares when it comes to aliens.
Alien clowns?
Probing aliens. You know what I'm saying, man? And alien clowns, that'd be horrible. But what would even be worse is the alien clown that likes to probe. Okay, that would be really the ultimate nightmare.
For years, people including President Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter, astronauts have publicly claimed to have seen unidentified flying objects, and scientists like Stephen Hawking and institutions like the Vatican have stated that there are billions of galaxies in the universe, and we probably are not alone. Yes, I would definitely consider the Vatican as one of those scientific organizations that are on the forefront of science.
Yep, so right there, a MUFON.
Yep, right there with MUFON. I think they have an office in the Vatican.
I think they do. It's very small.
It is very small because the Vatican's pretty small, actually. Not that I've ever been there. I saw it on TV. I personally am a Christian and have a strong belief in God. I join the majority of Americans who believe that there must be intelligent life in the billions of planets and galaxies in the universe. Aguilera, who also was a vice mayor in Doral, a Miami-Dade County suburb, is trailing in the crowded race to replace Ross Liedeben, who announced in August that she is retiring after 28 years in the House. A Miami attorney, Rick Yabor, told the Herald her hard-to-believe assertions could hurt her political ambitions. I don't believe that for a second.
No.
I cannot believe this story could possibly hurt her.
No way, other than the tinfoil hat she's wearing and, telling us that Mork from Orcs could come down.
Well, wouldn't we all like to see Robin Williams again, though?
Well, we would. And I shouldn't poke fun at her because I do believe in aliens. I do.
Yeah, me too.
Why would they care about us?
ISIS?
ISIS and these small little things that really don't matter to them. I mean, really, if they have mastered, now this is just my speaking, and this doesn't really apply to you, Greg, unless you agree. If you're a race of whatevers, and you have mastered intergalactic travel, and you are so many billions of years ahead of us technologically, why the hell would you care what the cave people are doing here?
Well, exactly. And here's the thing, too. Does she have our best interests in heart, or is she playing with the alien agenda?
She's the alien agenda. She's probably a lizard person.
A reptoid, as I like to call them.
Reptilian. I bet she is. I bet. And she just wants to get in the office to, corrupt Florida even more.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's clear. We've sussed it out, Joel.
It's a nefarious plan to make Florida even crazier, is what it is. And I really applaud her efforts, because without Florida, where would shows like our Wednesday True Crime show be? So keep it up, gal. Keep it up.
I applaud her nerve, actually,
I
to
do
be able
too.
to say
Come on.
that. But
show up and go, hey, by the way, aliens abducted me, and that's not a big deal. They were really nice, and they told me exactly what's going to happen.
And there's one universal religion, apparently.
And there's only one religion, and everyone's going to get along because they won't be fighting no more, and they don't like ISIS.
Yep. We know all about ISIS. Oh, okay.
That kind of sums it all up, right, Greg? Right there.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right there in a nutshell. Okay, aliens know everything, one religion, and ISIS bad. That's exactly what they said.
Yep.
Nothing more, nothing less. But hey, like I said, I do applaud her guts for coming out and going, by the way, I was abducted once. But don't worry, nothing bad like the other aliens do happen to me. Huh? You know what I'm saying? It was a good time.
Yeah, it was, and good for her for whatever that was. That she did.
Exactly. We got to get out of here. We're going to play every Halloween. We're good friends of Creepypasta. Mr. Creepypasta himself had him on the show a few times, actually. It's up there for download if you want to hear it. And here is one of his, and it's called, actually, it's the true tale of Annabelle the Doll. Don't go anywhere. We come back. Mr. Tim Shaw will be visiting with us.
Annabelle was the focus of a case that famed paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren took part in during the early 1970s, and is highlighted in the book The Demonologist. It has been stated that this is one of the most unusual cases of a possessed object on record. In 1970, a mother purchased an antique Raggedy Ann doll from a hobby store. The doll was a present for her daughter, Donna, on her birthday. Donna at the time was a student in college, preparing to graduate with her nursing degree, and resided in a tiny apartment with her roommate, Angie, a nurse as well. Pleased with the doll, Donna placed it on her bed as a decoration, and didn't give it a second thought until a few days later. Within that time, both Donna and Angie noticed that there appeared to be something very strange and creepy about the doll. The doll apparently moved on its own, relatively unnoticeable movements at first, like a change in position. But as time passed, the movement became more noticeable. Donna and Angie would come home to find the doll in a completely different room from which they had left it. Sometimes the doll would be found cross-legged on the couch, with its arms folded. Other times, it was found upright, standing on its feet, leaning against a chair in the dining room. Several times, Donna placed the doll on the couch before leaving for work, and would return home to find the doll back in her room on the bed with the door closed. One night, Donna came home to find the doll had moved again. This time, it was on her bed. Donna had come to find that this was typical of the doll, but somehow she knew this time it was different. Something wasn't right. A sense of fear came over her when she inspected the doll and saw what looked like blood drops on the back of its hands and its chest, seemingly from nowhere. A red liquid had appeared on the doll. Scared and desperate, Donna and Angie decided it was time to seek expert advice. Not knowing where to turn, they contacted a medium and a seance was held. Donna was then introduced to the spirit of Annabelle Higgins. The medium related the story of Annabelle to both Donna and Angie. Annabelle was a young girl that resided on the property before the apartments were built. She was a young girl of only 7 years old when her lifeless body was found in the field upon which the apartment complex now stands. The spirit related to the medium that she felt comfort with Donna and Angie and wanted to stay with them by moving into the doll. Feeling compassion for Annabelle and her story, Donna gave her permission to inhabit the doll and stay. They were to soon find out, however, that Annabelle was not what she seemed. Lou was friends with Donna and Angie, and had been with them since the day the doll arrived. He had never been fond of the doll, and on several occasions warned Donna that it was evil, saying that she should get rid of it. However, Donna had developed a personal tie to the doll, and decided to keep it, despite Lou's feelings. Her decision was a terrible mistake. One night, Lou awoke with a jolt of terror. A jolt that didn't seem like it was from his usual nightmares. Somehow, something felt different. What would appear to be a common case of sleep paralysis became all too real. He looked around the room, but couldn't discern anything out of the ordinary. At first, anyway. Looking down towards his feet, he saw the doll, Annabelle. It began to slowly glide up his legs, moving over his chest and stopping at his neck. Helpless against it, the doll began to strangle him, and after a moment, Lou, at the point of asphyxiation, blacked out. He awoke the next morning, certain that it was not an ordinary night terror, and determined to rid himself of the doll and the spirit that possessed it. Preparing for a road trip the next day, Lou and Angie were reading over maps alone in her apartment. The apartment was eerily quiet. The silence was broken when rustling sounds came from Donna's room, aroused fear that somebody had broken into the apartment. Lou, determined to figure out what was causing the noise, quietly made his way to the bedroom door. He waited for the noise to stop before entering and turning on the light. The room was empty, except for Annabelle. whom was tossed into a corner on the floor. Lou searched the room for signs of forced entry, but nothing was out of place. And as he got closer to the doll, he got the distinct impression that somebody was behind him. Spinning around, Lou found that despite his unease, nobody besides him and the doll were in the room. Then, in a flurry of motion, he found himself doubled over in pain, with blood dripping from cuts on his chest. Upon opening his shirt, there on his chest were what appeared to be 7 distinct claw marks. I hope you enjoyed this article, and should you ever want to visit the famous Annabelle, she can be found at the Warren Occult Museum in Modus, Connecticut. The museum is run by Lorraine Warren, the famous paranormal investigator, and now frequent guests on the television show Paranormal State. Housed in a glass case at the museum, you will find Annabelle. Mrs. Warren relates that Annabelle still moves about occasionally, and is still known to...
And welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me is Mr. Greg Bach, and hopefully you enjoyed... Hey, Greg, how you doing, man? Good. Good. I'm glad you made it past that break. You know, we played that creepypasta tale, which was the true story of Annabelle the doll, of course, courtesy of creepypasta over there at YouTube. He only has 1.8 million followers, so, you know, he may not need us to plug him too hard, but we'll plug him anyway. Check out creepypasta over there at YouTube. And, of course, we got big guests tonight, Greg.
Yes.
We have a good friend of mine that's become a good friend over the years. And is Mr. Tim Shaw. But, you know, a lot of people, and I better call him by his proper name, Reverend Tim Shaw. He earned it, guys, so we're going to talk with him. And Tim and I, you know, we're radio dogs, you know, so every time we're together, we talk about radio. And so it's kind of fun bantering about radio and everything else. But, you know, there's a lot to Tim. You know, he's the co-founder, CEO of Sean Thomas Productions. He's an accomplished photographer, which I didn't even know. I mean, hey, man, that's great. That's hard work right there. And he likes to do the backwoods stuff, primitive kind of trekking, stuff like that. I always enjoy doing that as well when I get a chance to. My wife enjoys showers entirely too much that run hot water, so I can't do it as much as I once did. He is also a deep spiritualist, and that's really what really intrigues me about Tim, aside from everything else, but the spirituality aspect of Tim. And throughout our interviews, Greg, he's taught me personally a lot about that, where I just sat back and just absorbed. And I'll stop gushing over my good friend Tim over there, but everybody, welcome to the show, Reverend Tim Shaw. How you doing, Tim?
Hey, what a great introduction. And by the way, yes, I'm quite heavy because I just got back from Chicago about a week ago.
Oh, yes.
And I'm going to tell you what, the Italian food there. I found this little joint next to the hotel that was just amazing. They had meatballs the size of your fist, so I had to hit it twice.
Man, you know, and that's what's
I'm just like blown right out.
Well, that's what's nice about going when you're out of town and you find those little areas that maybe only the locals go. And, you know, traveling for radio, I kind of found out right away, you eat where the locals eat. Yeah, you don't want to go to those other places that they don't go to, because that's a pretty good indicator. You're either going to get sick or it's going to be horrible food.
Absolutely. And everybody knows that one of the important rules when you're either on the road doing paranormal investigations, or like us, we're doing, you know, the conferences or the talks and that sort of thing, you have to be careful how you eat, because there is nothing worse than having Montezuma's revenge and knowing that you're not going to get out and home and for another 4 days.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, I have a story, and it's a little bit, maybe it's a little too much for this show, but I'll tell it anyway. Me and another guy. I'm doing it right now. Me and another investigator. I'm not gonna say his name because it's kind of embarrassing. We had to go to the Queen Mary out there in California, and we stopped at this little fast food. It was a Jack in the Box, is what we stopped at. And I'm going, oh man, you don't want to eat that. Oh, I'm hungry. I gotta eat before we get there. Let's eat. So he eats, right? And so we're alone in the pool area. Him and I, maybe a couple other people, and we're going. So silent, guys. You could hear a pin drop, okay? And, you know, doing EVP work, trying to converse. Next thing you hear I looked at him. I went, and it was more. It sounded just like a balloon losing its air, and it was so slow. Everybody looked at him while it was in transit, and there was
his own. It's like a human version of Jack in the Box.
It was, and I just looked at the people. I said, "He ate Jack in the Box." Oh, and they all turned their heads back to what they're doing. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, I was up at Waverly Tuberculosis Hospital a few years ago, and the radio network that I was on at the time had this great con. It was small, but we got a chance to really get some good speakers, and we went to Waverly twice. So one night I'm out there, and all I'm going to tell you is this: these guys wanted to stop at Hooters. Now there's this fantastic steakhouse across the street, but no, everybody wanted to go and eat at this Hooters. And I'm thinking to myself, this is going to be detrimental. So I said, well, I'm going to look for like the least offensive thing I can find, which was like this greasy hamburger. Mm-hmm. And I had this greasy hamburger and these overdone fries, and I thought, well, okay, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Nothing bad. So about 1 a.m., I felt like Alien was ready to be born and rip out through my stomach.
Yeah.
So I took a sidestep. I took this sidestep into this big old empty room. It was the pharmacy. Well, little did I know that somebody saw me do a sidestep. Now listen, we're in a, there's men and women here. I don't want to be offensive. If it was just the guys, I mean,
I
that's
hear you.
good. My mouth was open. I'm sorry. That was great. Good one. But I don't want to do that. So I took a sidestep and I went in there, and oh my God, this thing I swore it was going to stop. Well, the problem was that this guy followed me in. So we were going live one night, and he was a guest, and we were talking about it. He goes, "Hey Tim," he says, "I want to play you something." I said, "Well, what are you going to play?" He says, "Listen, I want you to identify this sound." Well, he starts it up, and it is like, I don't know.
No,
it's like it sounds worse than like spectral hands moving furniture above you. It was just, and he goes, "What was it?" I said, "Oh, I know what that was." And he let the rest of the tape go, and he goes, "Oh, Reverend Tim farting," right? So it's like I had to get a copy of it. And what I do now in all my 101 ghost classes, whenever I teach it, I have no shame anyway, but I put that out there, and I only play the escaping air part. And I ask people, "Geez, what do you think that sound was?" And they come out with doors and growls and demons and all this other stuff, and then you just hear Reverend Tim farting, and they kind of some of them get kind of upset because it's like they were duped. Yeah. And I say, this is a little lesson for you guys. You know what? Just because it sounds like a ghost or a demon or a monster doesn't mean that it was.
Sure. It's a good lesson.
As long as the audio's tagged, I mean, that's the main thing, right?
Exactly. That's the way I feel. That's exactly what. How many times have you guys been on an investigation? You're sitting there with a couple other people, and you hear someone's stomach growl.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, yes.
Man. I think every time I've gone out, I've heard that.
Yep,
well, you get some people out there that are real susceptible, and all of a sudden they jump up and they're going, "Did you hear that? Oh my God, that's a discarnate voice! Oh my God, oh my!" No, it's not. It was so and so stomach growling. Sit down, relax.
Chill out. Yeah, well,
I think my favorite, if I may indulge for a moment, that went on a paranormal investigation with, we were invited over to a theater, and we did a paranormal investigation, and went with some guy who was shooting the area that I was in with his low quality night vision camera. And suddenly, 2 days later, he sends me the footage, and he's like, "I have just found the most amazing footage I've ever seen in my life." And I'm like, wow. And I take a look at it, and there I am, obviously, and that's not a problem. And this ghostly figure appears behind me and then backs away. And I'm just like, holy cow, this is a pretty big deal. And he's like, "Please don't show anyone yet." I'm like, absolutely. I send it to my friend Nicole, who investigates with me as part of my team. And I send it to her, and she just writes back right away, "That's me." I'm like, "It is?" She goes, "Yeah, that's me."
Oh,
and you can see my hat. And I'm like, Oh, because this guy who said, he was like, this is the best evidence I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And I just like, and I had to go back and like, yeah, it's Nicole.
At least you saved him. You didn't go, dude, that's something there.
Yeah, I should have not done that, right?
You know, you should have been like, wow, yeah.
This is amazing.
Yeah, this is amazing. Look at this. But, aside from, our gas issues on the road and everything else, Tim, now you've been a spiritualist pretty much your whole life.
Well, I was brought up Roman Catholic. I went to a Polish parochial school, even though I was Scotch, Irish, German, Welsh, Micmac, Indian, Italian, and a few other things mixed in. No Polish whatsoever in there. But I went and I spent a lot of summers and weekends and stuff up at the Lilydale Spiritualist Assembly here in Western New York. Yeah. So I think I first went back in there, if I'm not mistaken, it was like 1972. And that's where I really kind of cut a lot of my teeth. And so I went, and over the years, I kind of, I'll be honest with you, Roman Catholicism, if they had taught it correctly, if they had taught about the mysteries and they had taught about the true miracles and sacraments, not just the pablum catechism, I may not have gone and jumped and had been as impressed with spiritualism as I did, because of course, the study of comparative religions, you start to see so many of the similarities between Catholicism and spiritualism, outside of the veneration of Jesus Christ as a deity. There's a lot of the same things. And I always remember that I spoke to a former Jesuit priest, and he had married the former head of the National Spirits Association of Churches, and he had been a theologian at Georgetown University. And I always remember what he told me. He says, if you want to learn about mediumship, study the lives of the saints. And, I took that really seriously, and I did. And now if I look at it, it's very much the same. Philosophy is the same. There's a lot of it that's the same. So I always tell people, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Sure.
Spiritualism is a complex religion. It's a hybrid religion of a lot of different philosophies. So when you start breaking it down, you start realizing, oh my God, this is a little bit of this is a little bit of that. Oh, I understand this now. Okay. And I think that because I studied so much spiritualism in my life, and spiritist, which is a little different, but it's still a form of it, I think I can understand a lot of the Christian religions a little bit better. So, I mean, I was lucky. I was very, very fortunate.
And I just want to say, as someone else who's grown up Roman Catholic and went to Catholic schools and stuff, I mean, I think that's a very astute position that you take there. I find, growing up, to me, Catholicism was a lot of if you do this, you go to hell. You do that, you go to hell, sort of thing. Whereas it's actually it's very beautiful. The mysteries, the teachings, everything it's very beautiful. There's a lot to learn from it. And it does feel like that it's a shame, really, because a lot of that sort of stuff I aforementioned actually drives people away from the religion quite a bit.
Well, I always tell people this. Basically, a religion is created by man. It's set in motion to preserve a tradition, a belief, but it's also set in position to become controlling, which is a fault of man, and it's made by man. However, true spirituality is a covenant between you and your deity, your God, your belief, whatever it is. So a guy like me, I mean, I was a card-carrying member of certain churches, spiritualist churches for oh my God, for decades. And I eventually gave them up because I couldn't fit that mold anymore. I couldn't even within some of the different spiritualist religions, I couldn't fit into it. Because I started studying Reiki, and I started, and as you guys know, I have a lot of friends that are within the voodoo traditions and the Santeria religions, and the Wiccan communities, and and of course, I mean, just as a quick mention, Ray Buckland, who I just, I can say I was blessed to have met him several times, and have him actually know who I was. I mean, within his different traditions, and so I mean, it's so hard to. For some people, it's okay, but if you're a truth seeker, or if you have a true burning desire to learn and to see and to compare religions and spiritualities from across the board, you can't be pigeonholed. You can't you can't have somebody say, well, this is the way we did it, and you look at her and you say, well, I'm sorry, but this is 1970s New Age knowledge that has been around forever and has been proven wrong. You have to expand more on it. Well, no, this is the dogma of the church, and this is the way we're going to do it. And you can't be not true to yourself.
Sure. Or
else you're going to be miserable. You're going to be miserable. So that's the way that's one of the main reasons why I broke away from everybody, and I decided that I would, kind of follow my own path, which is a blessing, because now as an independent, I can serve multitudes of churches and small services.
Do you find yourself borrowing a little bit here and a little bit there, of
Chaos
these different
magic,
religions?
Absolutely.
There's not that
chaos magic.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
Go out there, take the best of everything, man. You take the best of everything and you incorporate it in your life.
Yeah, and that's a lot of people, including myself. I've done the same thing, kind of grab this and grab that, and because spirituality is, like you said, so many different things to so many different people as well. It doesn't necessarily fit my definition or your definition. It's a really spiritual community.
There is absolutely nothing out there that can be put in a box. You can't do it. You can be, if you study it for a while, then all of a sudden you start looking and you say, I got to start pushing this box out a little bit more, because now I got this thirst, this hunger to go and learn a little bit more about this. Hey, wait a minute, that guy across the street there, I got to ask him a couple questions. I got to see what his spirituality is and how it compares to mine. And next thing you know, you're seeing all these similarities, and you're like, wow. And then you start seeing even more of it, and you start becoming a hybrid. That's eclectic, a hybrid, whatever you want to call yourself. Sure. And that's what I love. And that's what and to sit down and to be able to talk to somebody else who is in that same mind frame is a treat. But also to sit down and talk to someone who is so adept and astute in their own religion, and to be able to ask them these questions. I used to work with an exorcist. He was a bishop at the time in the Western Rite Catholic Church, I believe. That was because that was one of the ones that broke away from the Roman churches in right around 1863, if I'm not mistaken. And one of the greatest conversations we ever had was the conversations about angels and demons.
Yeah.
And spiritualism doesn't teach it. It's like, no. And he'd go, Tim, and usually we'd be arguing over cigars and bourbon, that's the best time to argue. And he'd be going, but Tim, what do you call this? What do you call these really nasty SOBs that come out? And I said, well, they're parasitical entities that may be having an addiction. He goes, they're lower, right? Right. Mm-hmm. Well, don't you think that perhaps if you open your mind a little bit, you could actually call them or refer to them as demons? And I said, well, the demonics, no, because of the fact that they were never born. Yeah. These are entities that were born. He goes, no, he says, break it down even more. And by the time I was done with that conversation, I realized that so much out there, the energy. So there's the natural beings out there, the elementals or whatever anybody wants to call them, which are not recognized by so many of the spiritualist religions, are truly a reality. Mm-hmm. And I sat there one day, with them and I went, damn you. Now you just, my brain just blew up now. Now I have to incorporate this stuff in what I know.
Because if I'm not mistaken, Tim, isn't the word demon and the thought of demon more of a Christian ideology anyway? I mean,
it is. It is.
You know,
but I mean, you have to call it something. You have to call it something.
Well, exactly. And lower spirits or negatives, I've heard it said a million different ways, but it just really boils down to what you just said. You know, it's using different semantics to represent the same thing.
Exactly. And what people don't understand is that, yes, you must study and come from some kind of a base. But yet you have to be able to be so fluid in your spirituality and in your opinions and in your own personality to accept something new that just might make a little sense. You can't go and turn it right off. And I'll always remember that was one of my most favorite conversations I've ever had in my life, because at that point I truly realized that, you know what, everything does not have the right, everybody doesn't have the answer.
Yeah.
But yet everybody has the answer, because everything is just called something different. And when I started realizing that, I understood the importance of accepting it and going out there and practicing it, and actually going out there and practicing some of these rituals, some of these traditions, because then when I walked into something negative, or I have a problem with something, then I could go and I could figure out how to diffuse it, how to lessen it, how to help these people. And, you know, and I also figured out sometimes when these things are a little bit, well, too monstrous, I'm not, you know, I have to go and check my ego and say, well, I'm not like, you know, the cat's meow here. You know, I have to go and I have to pass this on to someone who may have more knowledge and experience in this topic. And, you know, because, you know, guys, you know yourself, how many paranormal groups go out there and they come into something that they really shouldn't be messing with, and they're and we call it poking the devil with a sharp stick.
Yeah.
And they're out there working on this stuff, and next thing you know, the stuff blows up on them, and they drive away, and the client is sitting there stuck. Now they're stuck.
Well, yeah, they've kicked over the beehive, the hornet's nest, and they're like, well, we've done all we can do. See ya. And then they leave that client and that person sitting there wondering, well, now what? Now we're dealing with something tenfold worse, and we don't know where to turn at this point.
Exactly. So you have to. That's the big thing. Now because you guys know I was sick for a while, and probably looking at surgery number 10 coming up in November. But I had backed off from a lot of negative cases, because if you start reading like you guys have read Malachi Martin, but a lot of people haven't. Malachi Martin's Hostage to the Devil will state right up there that, you know, when you start dealing with negative stuff all the time, it does affect your physiology, and a lot of true hardcore exorcists, it shortened their lives. Yeah. And, you know, I was working a lot of negative cases, and I developed something that I had to go and get taken out of me, and I think I'm going to have to go and to have it done on surgery number 10.
Well, years ago, just to tell you really quick, just to butt in, we interviewed him on this show, Malachi Martin, years and years ago. And yes, you're absolutely correct. You know, when you work with that, you become marked.
Oh, you do. But also, it's right up there with people who own locations. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many people have come up to me and said, I love the location, but the owner's crazy.
Yeah.
It's because you work so closely, you are there, and you are affected by whatever is in this location or on this land or whatever. And it does change your thinking. People don't realize that. There are subtle personality changes, the whole thing. People don't get that. And, you know, and I think the reason why is because, of course, I mean, TV has gone out there and shown, well, this can be a thrill ride. This can be fun. Yeah. Oh, this is one step, this is just like one step better than a haunted house.
Yeah.
And it's not. And you have to go out there and make that decision for yourself. And you've got to be able to go, like myself now, if I don't feel that I can handle this case, or if at this point in my life, since I just retired, I actually have time now. But in the past, I didn't. I would have to hand the case off to someone who is competent. And in my little circle of friends here, I work with family counselors, an addiction specialist. I work with basically, I'll call him like he is. He's a magician or a wizard in the northern traditions who specializes in negative stuff. Mm-hmm. I will go out there and I will pass this on to someone who knows, or someone within the Native American communities, if I feel it may be something Native American associated to or on reservation property. Yeah. You've got to be able to go and you've got to be able to cultivate this network out there. And I'm blessed because I can call these people friends.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't do that, and they're sort of just like hanging out there. And then when the proverbial poop hits the fan, who knows what happens? And then they drive away. Yeah. I worked with a group years ago that they were calling me because they couldn't get a hold of the team leader. They couldn't get anything. They couldn't get a reveal. I had to go out there and beg to get this stuff in. I went and did a reveal, and it turned out to be something that was very, very poignant to them, something that was really hardcore associated. And yet, these people wouldn't do it. And I don't know if they were afraid or if they were just inept.
Well, exactly. I mean, where does that rubber meet the road? And I hate to break up the conversation. We have to run a break. In fact, we're running a little late for break. We'll be right back with more Reverend Tim Shaw right after this. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
It's your ideas, work, and creativity that make it your yard. At ACE, we're here to help with hoses and sprinklers to nurture growth, gardening tools for the shape of good things to come, even the right fertilizer and bug killers to make the grass a little greener. You'll find it all now at ACE, your place, with everything you need for your yard, plus helpful advice, almost like we're right there. ACE,
the helpful place.
This is Jen McGowan, founder of Wayward Souls Promotions, a company dedicated to helping individuals, teams, radio shows, and others that are seeking exposure for their individual events, conventions, and shows. We offer a wide variety of advertising, such as web-based article, social media posts, podcast advertisement, and so on. Contact us at paranormalpromotion@gmail.com, visit us on Facebook at Wayward Souls Promotions, and visit our website at www.waywardsoulspromotions.com.
You're listening to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
And welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me is Mr. Greg Bakken, and we are, of course, speaking with Reverend Tim Shaw. But I have to first add this. This next segment of this interview is brought to you by Fate Magazine. Fate Magazine has been around since the 40s. Did you know that, Greg?
I did know that,
It's been around forever, and of course, they're one of our sponsors over here. So if you want to get a really good paranormal magazine, if you want to see kind of where it all began, really, I mean, as far as Etta Lorraine Warren, all that kind of stuff, they were all in Fate Magazine in the early days. So check out Fate Magazine. You can go to fatemag.com, get yourself a subscription to that, and enjoy it. It's really cool. Of course, you can also get retro issues. So if you want the Mothman issue, you can get the Mothman issue. If you want the Ed and Lorraine Warren with Annabelle in it, you can get that issue. All from back then. They do offer retro issues. That being said, Greg, it's coming back right back to Mr. Tim Shaw. Now, Tim, very interesting as we were talking about your upbringing in Lilydale. Now, something that was pretty commonplace, at least our other discussions we've had, is the presence of seances. I mean, that was not something that was, you know, can you go into that a little bit with us?
Well, seance, I'll tell you what, when I first went to my first seance, they call them children's seances during Lyceum, which is the spiritualist Sunday schools. And you went there, and it was during the day, and the purpose was to kind of get you used to physical phenomena so that you wouldn't be kind of freaked out. And everybody, don't get me wrong, everybody freaks out the first time you're all by yourself and something happens. But it was to get you used to it. And it was in light, you did it in bright light, and we had been doing things with the writing plancher, and we never had boards. We always used a shot glass or a wine glass for yes or no answers on a polished table. It would like skim back and forth. And slowly but surely, they went and they would teach you some different aspects of a table turning, or what they call table tipping today, and wrapping out, the different alphabet to make words and paragraphs and that sort of thing. But it wasn't until, I would probably say, probably right about 1984, 1985. No, I would say 84. In a meditation, one of my guides came to me, and she went and started saying that it's time for you to learn real seance. And I'm thinking, well, I thought I knew it, I mean, I had gone to seances, and even as an adult, I had gone to seances. And she goes, no, in this vision, she went and she said, I'm going to teach you what you need to know. And it was more of a Victorian or post-Victorian seance. It was that kind of a style. It was an etiquette. It was a whole style. And it wasn't until I met Reverend Jane from down in Erie. I love her so much. Who was one of the last of the trumpet mediums. It wasn't until I met her that I could validate so much of what I had seen in my vision. And a lot of it was really neat, because it was you would have a light meal before the seance, and then you would sit down, and the etiquette was so great where you announced, one person would act as, they would call it either the leader or the ringleader, another one would act as a battery, and you would sit there, and then you would announce your name, and everybody would introduce themselves around, and next you would announce the purpose. Now, I had never known that, but in this vision, so you announce the purpose, why you're here. Well, we're here for the manufacture of ectoplasm. We're here to experience physical phenomena. We're here to have direct voice. We're here to contact someone on the other side, 100% hardcore, to bring through a name, validations, and all that coming through, identifiers. But you had to go and you had to do that. The other thing is even in the vision, everything was never like just in total darkness. Everything is done, with like a very, very dimly lit, source. Personally, I like to use like a red or a blue light, and very, very like almost like one of those little what are they? The little Christmas tree bulbs.
Sure.
I love those. And we use those because this way, no one can cheat.
I was going to say, Tim, why does it seem like that? And this seems like a perfect time to ask this question.
Sure.
Why do they always seem to be in the dark? Whenever you hear about seances, or popular culture will show it that way, and I've gone to a seance where it's completely dark. I mean, it was so dark. Oh. You couldn't even see your hand in front of your face.
Yeah. You know what I tell people about going to seances that are completely dark? Walk out. Because of the fact that they'll make the excuse that spirit is, any kind of light will affect what's going on, and that's bull. That's bull. In my estimation, in my experience, that's bull. Because lately they're starting to teach physical phenomena, and they're starting to teach seance again. But for years, the churches didn't teach it. The one that I went to, they didn't teach it. You want to know why? Because it was an age of fraud. It was this, they call it the golden age of spiritualism, followed by the golden age of fraud. And we all know about Houdini and Marjoram and all that other stuff. And you have to be careful. You have to remember, people out there are feeding not only their pockets, but their egos by doing this stuff. And to me, I want to go and I want to be a truth seeker, because the bottom line is, you go to a seance once, I'll tell you what's going to happen. The medium is most probably going to bring through some readings and stuff, and maybe you might get a little rapping or you might get a little something, but not to the point where you see in all the movies. Why is that? Because in order to have a true 100% hardcore seance, everybody has to have their vibrations centralized. Everybody's got to be in sync. The vibration, you got to get used to working with each other. Why? Because this way it's easier for spirit to slow its vibrations down in order to work with everybody's vibration as a bulk. So you have to do it the same time every week for months, maybe even years. You look at the Conjuring Philip, the Philip experiment.
God, yeah, we cite that a lot on the show when we talk about thought forms and stuff.
I mean, that's basically that's what you want. You want to be able to go and get some kind of two-way intelligent communication that is viable and repeatable. That's what you want. But people don't get that, and that's why I will never do anything in total darkness. And I tell people, you got to watch it, because there's so much that you can do. I know some great magicians out there that sleight of hand can make bells ring and can make the seance trumpet raise, and I mean, I know some of the tricks. I mean, I grew up with the billet readers and some of the charlatans. I mean, I remember them as a kid, and you have to be so careful, because let's just face it. You guys want the truth, right? Yet that's why you're looking. That's why you search. That's why you went to a seance.
Yeah, exactly.
People want the truth. Yeah. Nobody wants a sideshow. You know what? If you want to go to a sideshow, I know 1,001 wonderful magicians that you can turn around and go to and be truly amazed. Yeah. Be truly amazed. But if you want the truth and not trickery, then make sure that you have some kind of a light on.
So what is it that you see at a seance? What happens at a seance? I mean, it's because what you're just saying to me sounds like, well, you know, what we see in films and stuff all the time are tables levitating and knocking on the walls and people being taken over. You know, what actually do you get when you do a seance? How does, like, what in particular too, like, what is something that is really stands out in your mind as a very successful seance?
I'm going to be totally honest with you. What you said, all of it can happen. All of it can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the reality. In most seances that I've been at, and I've conducted or been a part of or, you know, participant in, I would say the vibrations that come up through the table, and you can feel them. Everybody can feel them. And that is really something that's really amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And to have that table move, have it bump and jump, that is usually what you're going to get. Now, I've been to some seances where we have done the regular meetings, where we've culminated into the production of ectoplasm, where 6 people got up and put their hands into it, where they could feel that cotton candy. We worked so hard. We were getting we were at a local spiritualist church before they shut the group down, because they didn't want us working on it, because none of us were quote unquote certified mediums, you know, within their organization. So, okay, that's all well and good. But I can tell you that we had footsteps. We had what we called almost angelic or celestial singing. We heard, all of us we heard it. We had doors that were opening, and they were spring loaded, so they would you know, kind of slap back and forth. Yeah. This is the stuff that we were starting to get. 6-foot wooden tables, heavy wooden tables, were dancing on one leg. You know, I mean, it was an amazing thing. But of course, I mean, you know, powers that be shut us down. But we had worked probably hardcore 6 months. We started with I think we started with 16 people, and when the physical phenomena started, where there was audible or whatever, it just freaked too many people out, and we ended up, we were down to 6 people.
You know what interests me? And sorry to cut you off. I didn't know I was going to do that. When you mentioned the angelic singing, that's something that's always interested me, because I find that sort of thing very fascinating with the stories of, like, some of those will be in octaves that no one can possibly understand or even replicate. And I'm just wondering, I mean, is that something you run across often, or is that like just once in a great while like that?
It depends on the makeup of the sitters. It's very, very important. The makeup of the sitters is what makes up the type of phenomena that you're going to get.
I got it.
Mm-hmm. We've gone and we've recorded them. I mean, I'm one of these guys that, you know, people are like, can I record, you know, if you're giving somebody a reading or whatever, can I record it? Absolutely. I don't care. It's not, you know, the reading isn't coming from me. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. Same thing with seance. Put a camera on me. Whatever you want, record it. Yeah. And it's amazing because you hear all of a sudden you're watching the camera, you're listening, and you hear, oh my God, do you hear that? And everybody's going, it's singing. Oh my God, do you hear that? Yet nothing is recorded on the audio.
It never translates to the recording.
Exactly, and
okay.
That's happened quite a few times.
Now the seance I went to was you go in, and this one was a lady. You go, you pay her $20. They make you turn your pockets out, so you didn't have any lighters or matches or anything with you, or flashlights or anything. You went in there, darker than hell, where you're putting your hands in front of you till you get to the table. You sit down. And then this lady comes out with this real weird voice going, now we will talk with the dead, the dearly departed. And of course, what you just said is it takes a group of people. Exactly. And she's like, oh, let me peer. And of course, she had a crystal ball, but that was lit. Slightly lit, just enough so you could see it. And of course, she'd begin. But now what you're saying makes complete sense. You have to have a group of people that know each other very, very well and are able to focus that energy to bring forth the desired effect.
Exactly. Because let's face it, if you're not going for physical phenomena, right, you're going to go for like the one-shot deal. Mm-hmm. Basically what it is doing message work or reading with a theme. That's what you're doing. True seance is that type of thing. Now, I'm going to be doing a one-night deal. I think it's the 27th of October. However, what I am doing is laying groundwork. I am going to do a full Victorian style seance, but I'm going to be teaching.
Yeah.
A lot of it is going to be teaching, and then we sit down, and then we try out what we've learned. And we'll see what happens. And I'm going to start off with spoon bending. I want to teach people how to bend spoons. Then I want to go and from there I want to work with table tippings. And the reason I'm doing this is to build up, sync the energies as much as I possibly can before we sit down and do a formalized seance. And here's the deal, and it comes right out, and I tell people this is the way it works. We're going to do this, but if nothing happens in 20 minutes, that's it. We're done.
Now, go ahead.
If you're interested, I would love to form a group, 6 people, 10 people, whatever, and do this on a regular basis once a week for months at a time to see what we can get. So actually, there's a method in my madness.
So you're kind of seeing how your group evolves within a month period, in a sense.
Absolutely.
Like what you can do at the start and what can you achieve at the end.
Absolutely. And I'm going to go and weed out those that are just there for the thrill ride. The people that are going to come to this, pretty much to this group, into the seance, are people whom I know anyway, who are really dedicated and want to do this. And I'm going to see, and of course it's going to be a mixture of other people too, but I put a limit of 25 people on there, and it's going to be a lot more class than actual seance, because I want people to understand 100% that this is not something that is a sideshow thing. This is not a thrill ride. I want people to know that the reason for it is sacred communication and the development of physical phenomena. That is what I want. And I want people to learn. It's like working with Ouija boards. You got to take that time to show a person and explain to the person how to do it, how to open it, how to close it, and how to deal with something that may come in that isn't cool. Yeah. So, this is what it's going to be. So it's going to be a 3-hour class. And I would be remiss if we did not try it. So it's an entire. What I'm trying to work up is an entire evening event for people to do.
Yeah, you're teaching, but yet you're also vetting the people, and that makes complete sense because you have to have some type of spiritual rapport with those people.
Absolutely. We're also going to be working with table tipping, and we're going to try to go and duplicate some of the Philip experiment. And I've been in contact with the Canadian Psychical Society, and they have sent me this unbelievable wealth of information of the Owens and what they accomplished, plus all sorts of links on YouTube to little known experiments and demonstrations, so that I want to see within a very short time if we can go and we can affect a situation where we create a thought form, and that thought form also goes and gains an intelligence. So these are two things that really kind of work hand in hand. And if I can go and if I can teach these people true seance, and then we can go and we can start experimenting with even the Ouija boards or working every single time in a true etiquette-based seance, I think that we can accomplish a lot, and that's what I want. I want to see. I want to show people that the old school ways are just as good as sitting there with a recorder and talking to yourself in the dark, because it may take a little bit longer, old school, but you gain so much more knowledge and spirituality while you're doing it. So that's what I'm really hoping for.
Well, I have two questions, and one of them is mine, and the other one is, of course, from a listener that really rang my bell and jogged my memory of what this is. But number one, when you make a thought form in what you guys are doing through spiritual communication, or you think that hard, you have that energy going, what do you do with it once it's formed? Do you keep it around? What happens with all that energy?
You never keep it around. You dissipate it. It's done through conscious focus and intent. And you never keep. Even as a dowsers, we go out there and you have two of the oldest guys, which unfortunately now I resemble that. But you go and you take two of the oldest guys and they draw a thought form map. They create this map in their mind, or I should say the thought form wall. They create it in their mind. They draw it out on a piece of paper, put it in an envelope. Then you send out dowsers with rods or wide limbs or whatever you want to use, and little flags, and let them go and let them find that thought form wall. When you're done with it, you dissipate it. Same thing with what's going on, what we're hoping for by working with it and dissipate. Actually, I want to do with the Philip experiment is you never leave anything open. Because the dissipation of the thought form does not go and harm the intelligence. The intelligence is going to be there. The thought form is only the portable body in which it's going to go and interact with you.
Gotcha.
And at the end of it, you thank it, and then you dissipate the thought form. That's what's so important. A lot of people don't do that. That's where people get in trouble. And a lot of people are afraid of thought form because of the fact that you hear it in witchcraft, you hear it in so many different traditions where you create this thought form for negativity, for harm, or whatever. That's not what you're doing here. You're doing this to create a body in which a spectral or a vibrational essence of personality is going to inhabit for a short period of time. And then at the end, they go and they leave it, and then you dissipate it.
Gosh, Tim, that's so fascinating. And one of the listeners wants to know your thoughts on the skull experiment.
The skull experiment down in Australia, right?
This one they're referring to the British one.
Oh, the British one. You're right. You're right. Now, you know what? I never knew anything about that. Right up until the Canadian Psychical Research Society turned around and sent me information on it. And it's fascinating. This is a totally fascinating thing. And what I love about it is that in many ways it mirrored the Philip experiment, yet I think it actually even went further.
Yeah.
I think it pushed it a little bit further. And before that, well, I can't remember, starts with a B, the gentleman's name, when they were working with it, it's similar, and it predates the Philip experiment, where and you can get it on YouTube. Bachelor, I think, it's something like that.
Yeah.
This is, to me, this is repeatable, and that's what I love about the skull experiment. I wish that they had pushed it even further.
Yeah, I'm looking at. I googled this quick because hey, we got some sharp listeners over there, and they hit me with this.
Yes,
I couldn't remember it.
I'm like amazed. This is so
great.
And
so I'm looking at it, and wow, the evidence that they made, the film that was sealed, and they developed it, and there were spirit images on that film. Ectoplasm was pretty much commonplace for them to create. They were speaking with several guides on the other side. Including, according to this write-up, alien intelligence.
Well, that's something else. You know, I have gone, and I was blessed again because I'm on the advisory board of the Edinburgh University Paranormal Society down in Pennsylvania. And I got a chance to talk to some people about the fact, or about the theory that aliens may be spiritual rather than nuts and bolts in nature. And if that's the case, of course you can go and contact them. Look at the Frank's box. Look at the original reason why those are made. Yeah. And you know, I gotta say, I have to keep my vision so open, and I have to be able to go and accept all of it, because now you look at the Hudson Valley. I don't know how many people talk about. I mean, that place is like a UFO highway.
Sure.
People go who are contactees, who are experiencers. They can go and they can call these for less of for a less of a better term, these aliens. And Andrea Perron. Let me tell you something about Andrea Perron, the lady who wrote the books that The Conjuring are based on. Andrea Perron can call in aliens, can call in UFOs. We were up at, where were we? Oh, we were in Michigan, the Michigan Paracon. She was up there. And out in the parking lot, she was bringing in something. And I was out there, and I don't know what it was. Now, she could have gone and really, you know, I could have been a rube, and it could have been something that's naturally occurring or whatever. Yeah. All I'm going to tell you is she was calling something in, and I could not explain what I saw.
You know, we had her on the show.
Bright stuff.
Yeah, we had her on the show, and she was talking about exactly what you're talking about.
I'm sorry, Joel. Tim, what did you see? You cut that off. What was it that you saw?
You know, it was, at first I just thought it was like, you know, a star in the horizon. And it was raising and raising and raising, and I thought, it's a horizon line, this whole thing. And then it moved. The Earth does not move, and it was like a zigzag. It was a quick zigzag. And I looked at it, and I go, I've never seen it. I've only seen that. I'll tell you the truth. I only saw that once as a kid during a UFO flat back in the 70s, and I was out in the woods, out in the country where there was like no extra light pollution. This thing would look. If I had seen it first, I would have thought it looked like a satellite going in orbit. Then all of a sudden, it just went zig, 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 and done, and it was gone. I don't know what it was. I can't explain it. And she says, and she's got the whole philosophy behind it. I'll tell you, of all the people that I've ever met, she's probably one of the most amazing women I've ever met in my life. But if this is the case, and if she can call it in, sometimes I wonder if her experiences with that house, with the spirits in that house, have somehow been able to go and raise her vibrations to the point where maybe she can go and
I kind of thought that as well. Yeah, when we were talking, I thought, well, was that the catalyst of that ability, you being in that home? Or was your vibration the catalyst of the haunting?
Exactly. Now, again, having worked with the Hinsdale House and having talked with Andrea, you go and you look at it, and the people when they left in the 70s, the Hinsdale House, there has been a constant infestation there, whether, at different degrees of strength. Now, when they left their house, people swear nothing happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've heard that. In fact, I went so far to talk to the current occupants of that home, and they said, "There's not haunted here. What are you talking about? There's nothing going on here."
Exactly. So, I mean, is it something that is affected by the person? And I've often said that different hauntings are definitely spurred on by the right person at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And I believe that if a person has the correct vibrational makeup, whether they know it or not, that can go and that can be the catalyst to a haunting. Mm-hmm. But if you think about it in alien terms, which is a little bit, and I know a lot of my friends that are big in the MUFON and that, they are just shaking their heads right now going, "Oh, Timmy, don't be saying this stuff." But it's like, if they are interdimensional or spiritual in some way, wouldn't it make sense that someone of a higher vibrational caliber, a person, could be able to call something in that is of an equal vibrational caliber?
Yeah, makes sense.
Could it, and could it not show itself as if it were an alien spaceship or something that's on the ground? I mean, and this even actually goes as far as like some of the Bigfoot guys I know.
Yeah.
Most of them are all, hey, they stink, they're hairy, and they scratch parts of their bodies that are, that we don't want to take pictures of.
Yeah.
But I know some people that go out there, and I was witness to this, where they were very, very spiritual, and they sat down, they meditated, and they said, "We're going to call out." And I was waiting for them to make the Bigfoot calls, and they didn't. They sat there, and one of them got up and said, "Okay, they're close." And I'm thinking to myself, we're out in the middle of the woods. What do you mean they're close? It's pitch black. What are you talking about? And he started wood knocking. And within 3 to 4 minutes, the exact same number of wood knocks came back.
That's amazing, Tim. And I really hate to cut this off. We have to run a break. I know we're running late again. That's what Tim does to me. I start losing track of time. We'll be right back, Reverend Tim Shaw. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this. You're listening to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
This is Jen McGowan, founder of Wayward Souls Promotions, a company dedicated to helping individuals, teams, radio shows, and others that are seeking exposure for their individual events, conventions, and shows. We offer a wide variety of advertising, such as web-based article, social media posts, podcast advertisement, and so on. Contact us at paranormalpromotion@gmail.com, visit us on Facebook at Wayward Souls Promotions, and visit our website at www.waywardsoulspromotions.com.
In 1999, The Exorcist was voted the scariest movie of all time.
Your daughter doesn't say she's a demon. She says she's the devil himself.
Entertainment Weekly calls it the most viscerally harrowing movie ever made.
That thing upstairs isn't my daughter.
The most electrifying movie of the 20th century is now coming back to theaters.
Where's Reagan?
In here with us.
Author William Peter Blatty and director William Friedkin have created an expanded, thrilling new version of The Exorcist with footage that has never been seen before.
She needs a priest.
Don't miss The Exorcist in the version you've never seen. Possessing theaters everywhere. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
You're listening to After Hours AM Deeper Cuts.
Cutting deep into what skews.
Welcome back to After Hours AM, Deeper Cuts Edition, everybody. I'm your host, Joe Sturgis. Right along with me is the talented and sometimes beautiful Greg Bakken. Are you enjoying this, Greg? I mean, isn't this mind-shattering with Tim's, I'm picking up what he's putting down. I get it. But man, it's still hard to wrap my mind around. How about you?
No, there's a lot of moving pieces to all of this, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of moving pieces, and of course we touched on everything. You name it, we touched on it. Greg, you have what's on your mind with all this? I know you're a deep thinker when it comes to that stuff.
We had talked at break. At some point, we're going to go into a little bit about the ITC stuff, and that's Tim. That's one of my areas that I personally find very interesting. Beyond just spirit boxes and beyond just all the stuff that goes along with it. Actually, over the weekend, we were when Joel and I were doing the live remote, we were talking with a gentleman by the name of Kevin Swanson, who does a lot of you know who that is?
Yeah, he's one of the leaders in this. Yeah,
and we were talking about a kind of like a way to do a visual form of a spirit box using, instead of having the white noise from a radio or echo, doing something where you get static, and I've seen some stuff that's kind of along those lines, and all that stuff is very interesting to me.
Well, what I love about it, I'll right up front, I'm going to tell you, I was probably brought into the world of ITC kicking and screaming.
Sure.
I hated it. Absolutely hated it. It was BS. It was just, you're matrixing the sound, this whole thing.
And Tim, another radio dog to another radio dog. I was the same way until I met Greg, and he changed my complete spectrum on that. To be honest,
I went, and one day, I'll just make a real short story. A gentleman who's really one of the greatest guys that really was produced from the TV shows, from Ghost Hunters and Ghost Hunters International. I consider him a really great friend of mine. He introduced me to some ITC stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is bull. Oh, my God. So my wife, who does not want me to play with this stuff around the house, she was out of the house. So I sat there one day and I turned it on, and I was in my living room, and I'm sitting there, and I'm hearing this nothing but and I'm hearing, like static and all this. And I said, this is ridiculous. So about 15 minutes into it, I treat all my box sessions as any ITC session, just like a seance. You open it, you set parameters, and then you properly close it, because you don't want anything to hang around and stuff,
Me too.
So I said, well, I'm shutting you down now. Thank you for attempting to say something. I'm going to count back from 5 to 1, and I want anybody that possibly could have come through. I really appreciate you going back. That we're going back to where you want it. You should be. So I go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I hear as plain as day, below the static, where is Tim?
Oh wow!
I never had anything like that happen to me. And where is Tim? The next day I tried it, and I went 5 again. Same thing, 5, 4, 3, 2, and the thing went 1 again, below the static. I was in the basement. My wife just rolls her eyes, because my poor wife does medical transcription in a little office in our little house. And now I've retired, so I'm doing laundry. And what better thing to do to entertain yourself while you're folding laundry or you're doing laundry is to go and set up a box or let something run. So I'm working away, do, and below that static. Now I've had it where it's answered in static, or in the choppy mechanical voices.
Yeah.
But again, it happened another time. It went and it said, "You will scream." That's the way it said. It came right through, and it was below it. And I said, yeah, I'm going to scream. So I threw a recorder on real quick, and I said, what's your name? And in real time, now in the choppiness, in the pieces of words, it said Mike. And I said, Mike, do you want me to close this session? And I only heard it actually go and say maybe. But when I played it back, one voice said maybe, and a second voice said yes. But I kept it on for one more question, and I said, have you ever lived on this plane? And it came back strongly, no. So at that point, I decided, well, you know what? I'm not sure exactly what I'm dealing with, and I'm not like 100% paying attention.
Sure.
So I'm going to go and I'm going to shut this down. And I did. And I thought to myself at this point, I said, there is so much more to this than I went and could accept. And then at Gettysburg this year, I was at the Gettysburg Con in July, and no, it was June, I'm sorry. And we were up at my friend Stephanie's barn at the David Stewart Farm, which was a field hospital. And they've got I call them squawk boxes, but they had a hack going, and somebody had put together the version of the Wonder Box, a spirit box enhancer, whatever you want to call it, with the pedals. Yep. And nothing is coming through. Nothing is coming through at all. I walk in there and I say, hey, how's the sessions going? And first thing that came through was a derogatory word for a homosexual that starts with an F. That's the first thing that came through.
Wow, that's a nice one.
And it, guys, wait. This is the way it's supposed to work. I'm going to tell you that you're not supposed to be talking like that, not to us. You have to be civil. And the thing came back and swore at me again. And I said, here's the parameters, guys. If you want any kind of communication with us, you've got to go and you've got to work in a civilized manner. You have to be within my boundaries because I'm in control. And guess what? You want to be heard? I am the conduit for your voice. So if you want to be heard, then you do it. It swore at me again. I turned it off. I said, that's the way it works. Yep. And see, the problem, what I'm finding is too many people are getting a lot of like this lower negative vibration coming through. Yeah. And at first I used to say, oh, you know what? This is like a validation because FCC is not going to allow you to throw a couple F-bombs out there. But when you start working and you want some hardcore, two-way communication, and you start getting that stuff, to me, that's as dangerous as listening to Zozo, let's say, on the Ouija board, you know? So you've got to be able to use your common sense and say, okay, hey, guess what? This ain't cool. You got to do it by my rules.
And one of the things that I tend to do when I'm using Spirit Box, because I use it quite a bit, and I think I do it to a fairly successful degree, is a couple things is like I pretty much throw out almost any word that's one syllable. One syllable word, because like my name is Greg, and if it's up to me, I'd have like 500 times something says Greg to me. But what we've been getting more and more are full sentences, and that's been very exciting to get something like that and be able to be like, okay, we're actually having a full conversation.
Right, and isn't that supposed to be like what we're looking for? Is to be able to develop some kind of a cohesive two-way communication with an intelligence. Sure. That's what, to me, you're looking for. And when you start getting things of that nature, and you have to push it a little bit so you're not getting that lower stuff coming through. Mm-hmm. And of course, I mean, that's all just set in settings. That's control and boundaries and the way you work.
Yep, absolutely.
But the more you demand it, the more the other side seems to want to work with you. Mm-hmm. And when you start getting those sentences, you're like, oh, my God. I mean, even that one where it said, you will scream. I wasn't thrilled with the message. But on the other hand, I was thrilled because it was like, bam, it was a full sentence.
Well, and I think my favorite for me, and I'll send it to you, Tim. I'd like you to hear some of the stuff that I've been picking up.
Thank you.
Is one where we're at a place, and people who've listened before are probably bored by this one story, but it's absolutely amazing. The intelligent response of we felt where we were a dog coming through, and I'm asking on a spirit box, is someone's dog here? The response that we get, as clear as possible, is that's my dog.
That is awesome. That's what you want.
That's what we want. That's what you want. Because it's not we're not treating them as a circus show. We're like, oh, they said a word and you're clapping. And it's like you said, you're exactly right. It's that two-way communication where everyone is equal and sharing thoughts or responding or getting to know each other.
But guys, I got a question for someone that isn't learned in it, not very learned anyway. I am learning from Greg. But how do you keep the negative from coming in? Is it truly all the boundaries? Is it truly the checks and balances you put forth? Or is it sometimes like a crapshoot?
It depends. And I'll tell you what, it will depend. And that's why you have got to go and, have the gumption. I was going to say another part of a male anatomy, but I don't want to say it on the air. But you have to have the gumption to be able to go and turn it off. And the problem is a lot of people are like enthralled with getting anything. And they think that the swearing is like, oh my God, I got something. This is so great. And that's not what you want. No. You want something that is intelligent. Mm-hmm. You need it. That should be your purpose. But see, a lot of people don't realize that the whole goal-orientated thing, when it comes to this two-way communication, what I like to do is I like to use the exact same etiquette in seance with ITC. And by doing that, you've gone and you've actually you've actually gone and described the playing field. And when I do that, it's amazing. I don't get the swearing. Mm-hmm. I don't get the really nastiness. And to me, if I don't get anything at all, that just means that they're not either strong enough or the vibrations or frequencies or whatever aren't jiving. That's cool. I don't care about that. But all of a sudden, when you get something like, that's my dog, that is got to be the most heart-racing, just, how can you, undeniable proof that comes through. And I should say undeniable, because everybody can tear everything apart. But, I mean, to me, that would be nirvana for me.
Well, guys,
to be able to get something like that.
Does the presence of, like, a skeptic impact it at all? Or will it work no matter what kind of deal? I mean, like, to be honest with you, I was very skeptical. And Greg, I met all the people that claim they knew to, use a spirit box. I'm like, nah, you guys are just matrixing what you guys want to hear. None of that was even on there at all. Now, me being skeptical and being skeptical of the device, does that impact the end result?
First off, question everything. Mm-hmm. As a medium, I question everything. As a paranormal investigator, I question everything. I take nothing at face value. And the reason why I do that is because, again, we're looking for truth, and I don't want to be seduced into believing that something isn't what it really should be. Mm-hmm. I don't want that. So be skeptical. And I don't care. Here's my deal. I do gallery. I don't care if there's somebody in the audience that's skeptical. Mm-hmm. I do seance. I don't care if somebody's there that's skeptical. If it doesn't go, I don't care, because I'm trying to go and be the voice box of spirit. I'm trying to be the facilitator of spirit. And right at this point in our evolution, we cannot have 100% repeatable results. Mm-hmm. So my thinking is this: skeptic in the crowd or in the group, what better chance is there to go and convert somebody and have something good?
And the reason
is there a difference? Oh, I'm sorry, Joel. I was just going to ask real fast. Is there a difference between a skeptic and someone who refuses to believe?
Yes, a skeptic is someone who questions, who has to have someone. Most skeptics will sit there and until it's proven, they won't believe. Mm-hmm. There are people out there that just won't believe even. You know what? You can paint a room red, and they'll come in and say, this room is not red. This room is blue. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And they will do that. And there's people that do that. And here's the way I think. God bless you.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to live in their world, okay?
Yeah. Our jobs are not to go out there and beat somebody in the head to believe anything that we're doing.
Exactly.
Our job is to go out there and explore. And if people are nasty, and you guys get it as well as I do, and I've been raked over the coals more probably than anybody else, but my job is just to go out there and push some boundaries and look for the truth and work with different things and not be affected and not have to worry about proving whatever I'm doing to anybody else. If I get some great stuff, oh my God, I can't wait to share it. If I don't get anything, it's okay too. I'm just going to go and try to modify something else that I'm doing, whether it's an investigation or even in gallery or reading something. Sure. That's our job. Our job isn't to go and be the policeman of the whole paranormal metaphysical world. Well, that's not our job.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting because number one, when I was with someone that claimed that they knew how to run the spirit box very efficiently, they said because I was a skeptic and not a cynic, a skeptic, I truly wanted to hear what was going on. And God, I was really hoping it was going to work, that I had a cooling effect. That was me cooling the activity down. All right.
You know what? I can't stand when somebody says that. You know what? Somebody will come in and go, well, the spirits won't come around when I'm here. Mm-hmm. You want to know a secret? Spirits are here.
Yeah.
Everything's here. It's you who has put that out there. It's you who have gone and blocked it around you. I'm going to be truthful. I've had people do that at Hinsdale. This one guy goes, the house hates me and this and that, and if you mention my name and nothing will happen. Well, of course, I mentioned his name. Nothing happened. Mm-hmm. However, I gave it a little time, went back in, and we had plasma balls all pointing in the same direction. You tell me if he was, this guy who wants to put a damper on the parade, if it really means anything. It means nothing in the long run. It means nothing, and when they're there, it doesn't mean anything. It's you who are the true antenna. I always tell people, you know what I like to do? I like to have a little piece of copper, and I like to have like a little antenna coming off. Let's say you have a SB7 or you're working with whatever device you're using, and you keep it in your hand. You just have some kind of human contact with it.
Sure.
Because like dowsing and working Ouija boards, you've got that idiosyncrasy motor, I can't even say it now. Anyway, you're moving. My brain is shutting off.
Motor movements, yes. Yep.
Yeah, you're doing it. And you are the antenna. You are moving all this stuff, the dowsing rods, whatever, through you being the antenna. Because I read a journal about a woman who was a quadriplegic, wanted to dowse, and she could dowse with her tongue, feeling the differences on her upper palate. Wow. So if that's the way it works, you become that antenna. So why don't you just somehow have some kind of human touch in there, and this way, instead of just like a metal aerial, you have this human aerial that's coming through. I've done it, and I'm telling you right now, when I had that unbelievable "Where is Tim?" the device was sitting on my lap. Mm-hmm. It was amazing.
That is truly amazing. Another thing I like is the way you're not afraid to push the boundaries. One thing that at Paracon this last week, we had Jason Hawes, Grant Wilson, both there, and they both echoed that. Don't do what we do what you do, and that was really cool.
That's it. And you know what, Joel? I know a wonderful guy by the name of Mike Bestine. He is an Algonquin elder. He is one of the last of the wisdom keepers. And one time he did this ritual, and the next week we all got together and he said to me, he says, I want to give you the honor of opening. And I said, sure. And it was this whole fire thing. And he stopped me. In front of everybody, he stopped me. He goes, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm doing this ritual. He says, you're doing my ritual. He says, you do your ritual. And that always carried a lot of weight with me because I always went and said, you gotta push the boundaries. You can use what you see on TV as a guide.
Yeah.
But use that gray matter between your ears and come up with something new.
Sure. I'm right there with you. And Greg is as well. I mean, we're both big advocates of pushing that envelope. Because if we don't push it, we're going to be stuck where we are today.
Exactly.
But at the same time, I find it very interesting that the way that you run Spirit Box sessions is exactly how I run them, and I never put the two and two together about it being like how you'd run a seance, because it is. I do it exactly the same way. I open it, we set our boundaries, we explain where we come from. We only want to talk to anyone with love and above. And then we have a session. And yeah, once in a great while, we'll get someone who might say something, but then when we're done, we'll close it. Or if we feel that there is something not going on there, just like you said, Tim, we close it down. We're like, okay, you had your chance. You're not playing along. We don't want to partake in what's happening here, and we shut down.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. But you know what? what I found is, like, with me and seance, it came through a vision. It came through something beyond me. Mm-hmm. It actually showed me something that I did not know, something that I was not exposed to even as a kid, the etiquette of it. Would you, I want to ask you this question. Did it just feel, when you started doing it in that manner, did it just feel right? Did you just feel, all of a sudden you said, I'm just going to do this? Do you think that perhaps there was some kind of a vibratory sync that you might have picked up from the other side that kind of like said, hey, dude, let me show you how to do it safely?
Yes, I completely agree. Actually getting chills now even talking about it, because it really feels like when you do it right, you're going to want people from the other side to talk to you. Mm-hmm. And that's, right. That's what it really is. It's like, it's safe for them to talk to me. They know it. And I'm certainly not trying to make it sound like that I do it any better or differently than anyone else, but we do get a lot of responses because it's beyond polite. It's also about doing it right.
Right. And that's what you want. And people don't get that because, again, we're talking about a lot of people that are just jumping into the field that really don't have a strong spirituality, mm-hmm. and they're looking for the F-bombs, they're looking for the thrill rides. Yep. If thoughts are things and things are vibrational in nature and spirit is vibrational in nature, don't you think that these spirits already know what you're going to do and what you're going to ask before you get to the location?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, good point. Absolutely, that's a great point. Well, Tim, we could sit here and talk all night. Seriously, we could, easily. But why don't you tell us where people can get a hold of you, what kind of stuff you're doing, and also make sure you throw in your production company in there as well.
Well, let me tell you, first off, it's an honor. Thank you so much for asking me on the show. This is a great show. I love you guys. You guys are really pushing some boundaries and getting people to think. And that whoever sent in the comment and the question about the skull experiment, you blew me away, man, because that is like one of those lesser-known things that only people that are really into this field would actually know. So that was fantastic. Thank you so much. But you can find me on Facebook. I'm an avid Facebook person. But you can go and you can write to me at blackcatlounge1@yahoo.com. Also, if you guys want to see some interviews that we do with some crazy people who I love dearly, my good friend Eric Charles and I, we do a series called Curiosity, which is a web series with web episodes on there with interviews. And we are now doing Curiosity Radio, where we are out there and we get once a month we bring in some people that we've always wanted to talk to. And I have to say that I have to thank the guys from Slackjaw Punks, who are hosting our network, or hosting our podcast, because of the fact that they allowed me to put 3 of the old Black Cat Lounge interviews with the late Ray Buckland up there. And I really think that people, Ray always had a lot to say and teach, and he was just a gentleman, and his passing will be mourned by so many. So everything is free. Because we do this because we are explorers. We do this because we want the truth, and we do this because of people who are listening, and you guys. Because if we can go and we can make one person open their eyes and figure something out, or see the connection, maybe they can start following the dots, and everybody can start moving in the right direction. So I really love that, and again, I love your show, guys. Really,
well,
thank you so much for inviting me on.
No, I'm happy.
This was totally an honor.
Oh, well, thank you. It's all the honor, really, Tim. As always, is all ours. So you always bring something very interesting and enlightening. It's never the same interview. We interviewed a lot of people multiple times, and you can almost play the other interview, and it's the same interview. Not with you, and that's something I've always enjoyed, my friend. Is every time that we've talked.
Insane.
We're both crazy. We're both crazy. But tomorrow night we do True Crime, guys, and we are actually talking about the Adam Walsh case. In fact, I do believe that John Walsh will be coming on the air with us to talk about that case, about his son, his time America's Most Wanted, stuff like that. So again, want to tune in for tomorrow night, almost same time, 1 hour later, same network. So take care of each other. Love each other, and don't be afraid to push those boundaries and believe what you want to believe. Until next time, love y'all.